It's interview time! Hello everybody, of course I am the Invertabarian. Thank you ever so much for coming back to the channel, or if you've stumbled across it, thank you ever so much for coming and watching the channel. If you're new here, please of course remember to subscribe and don't forget to ding that bell to be notified of new videos that have been released. Before we get into today's video, I would like to of course say a huge thank you to our friends over at That Pet page. So please do head over and subscribe to That Pet page. Thank you ever so much. And of course, our awesome friend over at 8 Legs 4 Wheels. So two super duper awesome channels to go and subscribe to. Thank you ever so much. Thank you. And Greg, thank you ever so much. Wee man will certainly treat himself to something very nice. So let's crack on with today's interview. This is one I have been really excited to do. It's one that we've been trying to organise and get done for quite some time. This is a man I have so much admiration and respect for. It is none other than Frankus Lee. So everybody, hello, I am of course the Invertabarian, and today we are joined with an absolute amazing guest. It is none other than...
My name's Frankus Lee. How you doing?
Excellent, Frankus. Thank you ever so much for joining us here today. This has been an interview I've been really excited about doing for quite some time.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man.
Nah, when I started looking into YouTube, you're one of the first YouTubers I stumbled across, and it was a very, very, I think, I've spoken about this before, very simplistic but very powerful video you did. It was a Maxipede versus Millipede, and it was so simplistic, and yet it was just to me utter genius. So your channel is, I think you're on about, is it 14.2? You're
Yeah. I'm
over 14.
something like that. I know I'm very, very lucky to have that many people that are still willing to sort of wait ages and ages and ages for me to release a video.
It's months apart.
I know.
Well, is early 2000 you started?
Well, I mean, YouTube. I think YouTube was probably 2012. But I mean, I've been keeping creatures a lot longer than that. I think the first tarantula I was about 6, something like that. But I mean, I'm getting on a bit now. I'm sort of 47. Yeah. 47 this year, so 40 years. So I mean, and the thing is, obviously, when we first started keeping, there was no internet. I mean, the books were very sketchy and difficult to come from. You'd probably find like a natural history book which had like 1 or 2 pages of tarantulas, and a lot of it was sort of hearsay, and there was no real information in there. So I did what everyone else did and kind of kept, like, I had a salmon pink Goliath which I think I kept in a cardboard box underneath my bed. So yeah, husbandry was obviously secondary back in those days.
A lot of trial by error then. So briefly, the beginner questions will obviously kind of describe or summarize, if you can, your channel to anybody watching this. I'd imagine anybody watching this is perfectly well aware of exactly who you are, but on the off chance that there's some random person watching this, if you were to describe your channel to them, how would you go about doing so?
Okay. First of all, my channel isn't devoted to. I mean, it's not called Frankus Lee Tarantula Channel or anything like that. It wasn't necessarily initially started as a way of just showing off creatures. It was more of a way for me to diarize the creatures that I had. It's easier to look back at old videos and look at how big a certain creature was or what their character traits were. I put my channel as entomophobia therapy. There's a lot of people out there that have particular phobia with regards to spiders. It's spiders is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there's no other creature on the planet which has so many different triggers for the reasons for people why they dislike them. I always try to put a video out which is sympathetic to the creature, I guess. I tend to not do that many feeding videos unless it's a creature which is possibly not been fed before. But I call it arachnophobia or entomophobia therapy for haters, but mostly lovers of.
I know both of us have touched on I think we've both done videos on the sort of villainization of the false widow species. Example, in this country, I think we both have tried to address that issue.
Hold that thought.
He's off. He's off.
You see that?
It's a tad blurry. I can't make out what it says.
This is right. I've had this for absolute years, and I take it with me almost everywhere where I go. It's pretty much. I've done a video a couple of years ago called "The Truth About False Widows," and it's when the tabloids were really hamming down on them. Anything, house spiders, false widows, and so basically, I think one night I brainstormed every single situation that I had with regards to how venomous they are, what type of venom they have, where they came from, when they came into the country, and like I say, I don't like to try and put anything out which isn't as well researched as it can be when it releases. Obviously, new information comes along later on after the video is released, but it almost seems to be like it is obviously a business for the tabloids just to vilify these creatures, and I'd like to try and fire one back now and again, really.
Yeah, I think with the tabloids media, fear sells. People love to read what they should be afraid of, and
sure.
Year after year, especially this time of year, the spider populations are booming. As you've said, arachnophobia is probably the biggest phobia known to man. And again, I think you've touched on how that can be passed down through generations. It's a learned behavior as opposed to a personal or evolved behavior. It's learned from others.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is obviously with that, and I'm not going to go too analytical into it, but I mean, there's normally three places where this comes from. It's normally either handed down from parents. It's the common one. It's the largest statistic of the lot. It could be a secondary. It could be sort of an event or an early memory. Sometimes you may not. It might have even been almost subconscious. It might have been younger before you even remember it was an issue. And then the third, which I'd 2007, I started my PhD, and when I started looking at these statistics and looking at where it came from, the media only played around about 2 or 3% within that. I mean, in 2007, obviously there wasn't a lot of internet. The YouTube wasn't very, very big at the time, and memes, and obviously all the social media that we take for granted now wasn't available. So yeah, the media, tabloids were only accountable for around about 2 or 3% of that. Now the statistics have completely shot up simply because it's the generation of today is quite happy to believe some words that have been plastered on a photo as fact, and obviously that's it. That's the information which has been passed on. So again, I think it's one of those things that the tabloid, need to get slap wrist, and I do kind of try to revel in sort of unmystifying the misinformation that goes with these people.
Yeah. Spider bite melts leg and all that kind of.
Yeah, this word attack, that comes out quite a lot. Oh, it attacked me. No, it didn't.
So, obviously, we've got on a wee tangent there.
Sorry.
What originally That's all right. That's what this is all about. It's a chance to sort of rant and rave and discuss and learn and educate, and hopefully people watching this are going to go, actually, yeah, that's really interesting. What inspired you? You kind of touched already on it as to what inspired you to decide to do YouTube, and you said obviously it's a chronological diary, if you will, of your own keeping history.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's also the the self-discovery as well. I mean, there was no real tarantula channels or channels doing that much content. I mean, there's obviously loads now, and a lot have sprung up, and I think a lot of them can do things far better than I can or explain them. Yeah, I mean, but at the time there was people like Tarantula Guy, 1976, Rob C, you know, obviously, and love him or hate him, at the end of the day, his videos were entertaining, and it taught us a lesson one way or another, whether it's the right way to do things or the wrong way to do things.
Somebody takes something from it.
I know Rob, and he'd probably be the first person to admit, you know, that he could have done things differently. But by the same token, you might be seeing a little bit more Rob sort of come out.
But I think there is. I think he's working his way back.
Yeah. He's I think he's moved and what have you. But I mean, people like he's now called the Spider-Man, but at the time he was called Alan Hickin. I know Alan really well. Tarantula Dan, obviously, I've known for absolute years. Guys are completely.
Actually, why is it I can't seem to do a thing without him cropping up somewhere?
because he's just a genuinely. He is a nice guy, and he does a lot for the hobby, and
I know even out with. I mean, I know Dan as well. I've spoken to him quite a lot, and he was really helpful to me when I started this. You know, he maybe takes his time, but he will always respond to you.
He's a very busy man.
He's a very busy man, and I know he does a lot for the shows. He does a lot. He works. He does the shows. He helps with YouTube. He does so much. And he's just a genuinely nice bloke as well. What did you have when you started your YouTube and you kind of did it for your own personal gain and to help sort of break stigma and show what you keep, what you do, etc. Did you have a goal in mind for what you want to do with it? Did you think, right, I'm going to, you know, loads of people will watch this and hopefully I can change opinions, or was it just something you more want to do for yourself and the followers have come as an added bonus to that?
I guess the goal at first wasn't really to get subscribers. I guess, like I say, after the diarization of the creatures, it was more sort of the self discovery. Okay, well, I like tarantulas. I like the pretty colours. But in the grand scheme of things, they're not very diverse. You know, the three main types of tarantulas: fossorial, arboreal, and terrestrial. Some you know, grab their prey with a certain ferocity. Others are almost kind of quite lazy. My real passion was always with true spiders. True spiders obviously are a lot shorter lived. My aim was, I suppose I kind of peaked because I went to the top of the tree. In terms of spiders, I went out and I got a dangerous wild animal license. Obviously, I got regulated to actually get the creatures that were super diverse, the ones that really hadn't been filmed before. You know yourself, you've kept Dinopus. I was absolutely taken aback when I got footage of a takedown in my living room with the lights on that only had ever been seen before in a British, as in like a BBC natural history.
There's still to this day, without a shadow of a doubt, easily one of my favourite species of spiders. They never fail to impress me. And I know, I think.
Just found a new species in Africa as well, by the way.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, I got.
Well, I want to kind of touch up on as we move through here. I want to touch up about sort of import, export, and keeping of spiders and stuff. But before we go, I know, and I think I caught or I captured the footage of the Dinopus egg hatching, and I was absolutely gutted that I thought I'd filmed about the first half hour of it, whereby they actually cut. It's like a perfect little circle. And then one by one they start to come out. Unfortunately, that first half hour was. I've got the first slings emerging from the the sack, but unfortunately I missed the actual boring process.
But you always kick yourself for that.
I know.
There's no one that will give you a harder time than yourself.
But I was quite fortunate that another big YouTuber who does sort of spoof documentaries or very informative documentaries, but in a very satirical manner, he actually used that footage in the video he did about the DNO piss. It's a very funny little video. Obviously, YouTube it was a very early thing when you first started. You know, as you've already said, there wasn't a huge amount. Was there anybody that kind of inspired you to think, oh, I might give YouTube a try? Or as you've said, was it just purely you thought, I'm going to do this because it allows me to catalogue and create a chronology of...
There's actually two people, and that would be my kids.
Okay.
My kids are 14 and 16 now, but at the time, obviously, they were very, very supportive. YouTube, you know, obviously they've grown up with YouTube.
Yeah.
And the inspiration was always to do something that my kids could watch, to make something that my kids could read the comments and sort of just, you know, pass information off to their friends. That's
really awesome. It means that no matter how much time passes, no matter how old they get, they're always going to be able to go back. That footage is always going to be there. That education is always, that's pretty cool.
My kids are my greatest critics. And yeah, they're also the ones turning around to me and saying, it's about time you made another video. So yeah, I do get it in the neck. I do get it in the neck for that.
And I know another character of inspiration for you, I think, is somebody that we all, I think everybody in the hobby, of course, knows who Andrew Smith is, or certainly should be aware of who Andrew Smith is. And you did it, you absolutely, really nice, another, you know, absolutely genuinely nice fella. And I know when you were speaking to him, you were talking about, he goes out into the actual field, he does a lot of research. Yes. You were talking about the Smithy Hamori, the genetics. Yes. One thing you touched upon, which I always plays a big part in my mind, that we've kind of briefly touched upon there, is the natural habitats in which these animals originate from.
Yeah.
And you were talking about deforestation, which is also a huge problem, and loss of natural environment.
Yeah.
Do you think perhaps, this is something that really interests me, is whether you think that certain species are perhaps safer now because of how big the hobby is in UK or worldwide? Do you think some species, I know in Brazil they've had to shut their borders, but do you think in general fewer spiders are removed from their natural habitat because of breeding programs within individual countries, or do you think it's still a huge problem?
To look at the future, you need to sometimes reflect on the past, and yeah, deforestation is obviously a huge issue. Obviously, we had the fires last year in Brazil, which decimated untold thousands and thousands of acres. And the thing is, we could have quite easily have destroyed something that we haven't even discovered yet.
Yeah.
And I mean, Andrew Smith, obviously. I mean, I think what you're alluding to is P. metallica. We know that it was only ever found in a 75 kilometer area sort of surrounding Guti, and as a result of that, now that's probably that's nearly dwindled to like 25 kilometers. So it's only a matter of time before the natural wild habitat is completely decimated. So obviously the hobby as such has propped up and supported P. metallica to a point where now it's actually flourishing. But is that just because it's a very pretty spider? If it were a just normal humdrum brown tarantula, would the same mindset have been sort of, and the thing is, obviously there's always this big divide. You come across it, if it's not a mammal, it's not a true creature.
Yeah.
And you'll get people that go, oh well, you know, you'll get people like you and I who actually sort of, you know, would much rather be looking down the end of a microscope or down the end of a camera lens at something. We find that much more fascinating to us than we would do going out, looking like big game safari or something
like
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it's a dichotomy. It's we've already destroyed so much of the planet, and I'm not going to turn this into like an ecological rant. But everyone knows what's going on. We just need to make sure that Australia's got it completely right after the cane toad epidemic, I think in the early 80s, where obviously they introduced if you don't know, it's basically they had major problems with snakes, which I think were overrunning the country. So they brought in cane toads. Obviously, cane toads got a very, very nasty poison that's emitted through the skin, which then completely decimated their local wildlife. And as a result, Australia have had like such a strict import and export regime that if you want to get a dead specimen out of Australia, you need permits, you need sort of scientific paperwork to be able to do that. So, and I think that's a good thing. We just need to start trying to introduce that sort of in South America
procedures, and maybe try and avoid all these brown boxers. But that's another.
That's about as political as I get, that one.
I think I attended a job interview not so long ago, and they asked my opinion of zoos and do I think zoos are a good thing or a bad thing. And growing up, I kind of thought like zoos were these atrocious cement blocks and no animal should be kept in captivity, so to speak. But growing up, I think they've almost become an essential, because I think when you actually start doing the research, the amount of species that have been saved through zoo breeding programs and re-release programs, I think it's actually incredible, and they're a huge part of maintaining life on Earth.
I think we also need to understand that, like zoos, particular, they kind of came about, the whole Victorian age. Obviously, people were going off to explore the planet, and they got these fantastic creatures, and they needed to bring them back to the general public so they could show them off. I think if that idea was sort of floated around now, like today, maybe not 20 years ago, but like today, people would say, well, actually, morally,
set up a webcam.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
There's a zoo in Fife that actually have a live webcam to a watering hole in Africa, and you can actually watch.
Perfect.
It's absolutely amazing. Sort of digressing back a bit, how many pets exactly do you keep?
Now, very, very little. There was a point when I was getting sent a lot of stuff from scientific institutes. I've done basically. I live in Hampshire, and they don't live. They're not based here now. But quite a few years ago, the army were based here, and I used to be like their go-to guy to sort of go and identify creatures that would come back from like Afghanistan. For instance, obviously, and yeah, I used to do demonstrations. So obviously, these guys sort of know, kind of have an idea about what they're looking for in the desert, basically creatures. And because obviously my DWA allowed me to keep the real dangerous creatures. Yeah, it was a lot easier to actually show that to people. But yeah, I mean, sorry, what was the question?
It was basically about how many do you currently have, which isn't very many.
Right. Okay. Well, no, I mean, I guess in the time that I've been keeping, I stopped counting species wise, and this is and this isn't just inverts, this is creatures generally. Probably, I think I stopped counting at about 185 species and various subspecies. I mean, I've done the thing is, what you see on YouTube is probably only about 8% of the actual footage that I decide to put out, because I do try and record everything, but I tend to like try and put videos out which are like unicorn moments, I suppose, creatures which people haven't seen. When I first started keeping huntsmen, people were like, wow, that's just, I mean, people had kind of kept them within the hobby, but people were still really freaked out with them. Same with tailless whip scorpions. You know, I think I was probably one of the first people to actually put like a tailless whip scorpion video up and document some amazing behavior as well. So yeah, but as I say, I think, you know, between mantids, stick insects, scorpions, millipedes, centipedes, various snakes, cute and furries, and what have you. Yeah, it's about 185 different odd species now. So,
what, in your opinion, is the most underrated versus overrated species, with tarantula or true spider or anything at all?
Oh God. Well, if you're talking tarantulas, I don't know. I think it's probably is it the electric blue? What's that? I'm sorry, I'm a little bit down on the names now. Is it the one that was called? It used to be called Psychedelicus. What was that one? That's the one. It was called the LSD spider. I think it was called that's what Spider Shop were selling it as, but they make up their own common names.
Yeah.
but basically it's the one that everyone, when they first came out, people were like, oh, that's amazing, man, it's like brilliant, I got to have it, it's like 200 quid. And then basically it was just brown unless you stuck a little bit of flashlight on it, and then you might have seen on like the femur, you know, a tiny little bit of blue. So but again, you know, I mean, underrated versus overrated. OBTs, you've got to love OBTs. You cannot have a tarantula collection without an OBT in it, because once you've started working with them and you see what they're like, they just make me giggle. I think they're brilliant. They're fantastic. Underrated. You can't go wrong with a Hamorai, I guess, or you know, if you can get a genuine smithy. There are people out there where you can get them, but yeah, a genuine smithy. That's always my go-to beginner tarantula. And a lot of people say, yeah, but you know, chili rose. And don't get me wrong, I love chili roses. They're great, but I've had some really psychotic chili roses versus some really, really calm old worlds. So, and it just goes to show that they've all got their own characters, and it's kind of how you read into that. But and in terms of underrated spider, I've got to say it, Fanuccia. They are the daddy of spiders, and once you witness their speed and stop poking them with a stick and see their natural behavior, or as natural as it can be in captivity.
Now, that's the Brazilian wandering spider.
Yeah, Fanuccia is, you know, there's obviously a couple of species.
I'm trying to generalize for people that might not.
but yeah, the Brazilian wandering spider. I mean, it was kind of always my aim, because I ended up having quite a few male and females, which it was my intention to breed with a friend of mine, and I managed to document the mating behavior, which I don't think has ever been recorded before. It was all on red light, unfortunately.
You sent that to me. I watched that footage.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it was, you know, the male was huge. Fanuccia ferra is the largest true spider on the planet, and
Sorry.
No, I was going to say I had a huge 7-inch male Fanuccia ferra. He was a complete beast. So
would you say that working with them was probably your most butt clenching moment then? Would we just?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who knows me, and I've got a lot of stick for it in the past, is I don't normally shy away from handling, and I've held sort of a lot of creatures which people would just say, certainly a lot of people in the hobby would probably say, yeah, you're just being an idiot and just doing it for an intention, for attention, you know, and probably when I filmed it, maybe there's a little bit of bravado going on, but I mean, ultimately it was my aim always to sort of show that just because something has the potential to kill you doesn't necessarily mean that, it's this whole argument versus, my spider's being aggressive versus defensive. For me, aggressive means that the spider catches you across the room, looks at you, goes, I'm having a bit of that, and then runs across, up your trouser leg, up your shirt, sits on your neck, and then jabs his fangs into your neck. And we know that they just don't do that. So, so being defensive is a completely different story, So
although the media would have you believe that they certainly do.
Yeah, absolutely. It shot laser beams from its eyes. My leg becomes sort of necrotic and dissolved. It's the thing is, do you think these people would have the same view if, for instance, Lyrus quinquestriatus, which is the deathstalker scorpion, it's pretty much one of the most dangerous scorpions on the planet. That's actually being used currently in Parkinson's research.
Yeah.
So it's all right. It's all right to love it then. That's okay. But people are driven by looks these days. I don't like the look of that.
There's a lot of medical research focusing on venom toxicity and its use against combating various illnesses and ailments. I watched when I was doing a bit of research on MS, multiple sclerosis. There was research, I think, in Canada taking place about the effect of wasp and bee stings and stimulating nerve impulses to combat the lack of transmitters. I think their uses and potential are A, general population have opinion, B. It's a shame more people weren't more aware of the A side of things.
No, and again, that like for reasons I said to you earlier, that's passed down through misinformation, parents, old wives' tales, tabloids, memes.
One bit at a time. We will try and make it work. One thing that would probably certainly help people, and I have been waiting for the next edition of Lee's Drunken Rap Collection. I was wondering, and just certain lyrics like Ancascuritha genicula, I've written this down. The Brazilian giant white knee, she's awesome. Mate, come on.
Listen, the way things are going, it could happen in the next couple of days. It'd probably be a very short drunken rap though, because I haven't really got a lot of creatures to show off. But yeah, again, don't regret it for a second. She's a burrowing tarantula. There
was too many good quotes within that. So go. You can go and look that up yourself. I've got a wee mini quiz set aside for you. The answers could be completely wrong, but based on a quick Google search this morning, they were correct. One, as soon as I read something about poisonous black widows, I completely ditched that website and moved on rapidly. But mini quiz time.
All right.
What percentage of all animals are invertebrates?
Oh, that's very high. I think it's like percentage. I think it's like 80%, something like this. Really high. I think it's like.
I went for 80%. Apparently, the answer's 95.
Okay. Right. Okay. Blimey. Okay.
Well, as I say, whether it's right or wrong,
I knew it was going to be high. It's like 5 out of every 6 animals on the planet. Yeah.
Are sea spiders true spiders?
No.
Correct. Which is bigger, the damselfly or a dragonfly?
The drab damselfly.
No, that's just me stuttering. Which is bigger, the damselfly or a dragonfly?
Oh, I really wouldn't know. I'd have to say dragonfly.
Correct. By what other name are robber crabs more commonly known as?
Oh, that's biggest latro. That is coconut crabs.
Correct. In what country? In what country can the smallest spider be found? And I've done this as a multiple choice because otherwise we could be here all day guessing.
Okay.
Is it Indonesia, South Africa, Samoa, or France?
I would imagine small spider, not a liney feedi. It's going to be a salticidae. So it's going to be a jumper of some kind, I would imagine, because you look at something like Maratus, which are Australian. I would probably say Indonesia. Is it a jumping spider of some kind?
I don't actually know the answer to that, but apparently it's Samoa. Maybe I should have written down the answer to the actual question.
Okay, I win that one.
Yay! Your prize is getting to Google it yourself.
Fantastic.
Can spiders' webbing be effective in stopping a cut?
What, like a suture?
A bleed?
Suture.
Yes.
A suture. I don't know. I know they use like, is it like trapjaw ants? I think sutures.
Yeah.
Webbing. I've never heard of webbing being used in. I mean, I've heard webbing being used in climbing rope, webbing being used in fishing nets, but I've never heard it used as a suture. But yeah, I'm positive. I guess
you're right. Apparently, it has a natural clotting agent in it. So
fantastic.
Yeah, so there you go. Just grab a handful of webbing and shove it in your wound.
Fantastic.
Can spiders become trapped in their own webbing?
Oh, blimey. I don't know. I'm going to say yes.
Correct.
They are really left field questions.
I know. Wait until you get the next one. How far did you go before you realised she was a ladyboy?
Oh.
You don't have to answer that.
Next question.
What would be your dream job?
I've got to say, I mean, I'm quite lucky. Where I work currently, the company I work for, they're fantastic. I normally work. I have been working in audiovisual and sort of video conferencing for a long time. I used to work in live events, which meant that I used to sort of put on live shows, festivals. I used to work for the BBC. Couple of years ago, I used to build editing systems for the TV and film industry. So I've kind of gone through the whole industry as a whole, but the company that I work for now is the company, because of who they are and the way they look after their staff, probably. I think I said to him within the first week of working there that I'd quite happily retire there. So in terms of my dream job, regardless of what that may or may not be, I have to say it's working for the company, and I've got to say hello to him. And I know I don't mean to say it, but CNOS is the company that I work for, and obviously there's a lot of guys there are on furlough at the moment. They're sitting around probably much like I am on furlough, waiting for the phone to ring so we can actually start work again. But great bunch of guys, great company. That's my dream job, really.
Can't argue with that. I mean, to have a job that you love, enjoy, and don't mind going to, that is, I think, everybody's dream job.
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I have spoken in the past when I've been away and what have you. And obviously it is hard work, but obviously at the end of the day, you work hard, you play hard, and once we get this terrible situation out of the way and we start to move on with our lives, hopefully. We'll come out of it better people. I like to think.
Hopefully. I posted something on Twitter last night about how, again, we're not wanting to digress too much, but I kind of commented on about the fact that now people are starting to realise that usually the lesser paid members of our society are actually the ones that are contributing the most to holding everything together now. And my biggest fear is that once all this is done and dusted, these people are going to be kind of lost again in the humdrum of celebrities in football and these, hugely overpaid people that get all the attention. My worry is that, the planet is healing at the moment. She's getting a much needed break from the human race, basically. From this plague that we are. She's getting a much needed rest in the 2 million years she's existed or whatever. And my worry is that once all this is over with, nobody's going to learn anything from it. People are just going to resort back to this very abusive way we treat our planet. But I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong.
Me too. Me too. I mean, and again, I won't go about it too much for too long, but I was in the unique situation of 6 weeks ago where my eldest son, my 16-year-old, left school without even doing his exams, with this complete unknown ahead of him, and not being given the opportunity to actually to actually prove himself to the world. And I really hope, obviously, that the UK school system gets to a stage where these kids can actually go out, do their exams, and fulfill their potential.
Yeah, because I know they were talking about how the SQA are going to work with the teachers to try and sort of guess, if you will, what the young girls, lads and girls' grades would have been had they sat their exams. And I think it would be nice to be able to come up with a system whereby they're not judged. A lot of these kids, I know I certainly did, when I sat my prelims and stuff, I went in thinking this is a practice. I probably didn't put as much into it as perhaps I should. So to have them grades be the ones that are going to be reliant on is a bit scary, I think, for some.
It is. I really hope it gets sorted out.
Yeah. You spoke there about obviously traveling the world, and we spoke about Andrew Smith and how he's travelled. While you were traveling about, I know obviously through speaking with you, you're like hugely busy a lot of the time. They could be incredibly long days from sort of crack of dawn till sunset.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
I work hard.
Oh, absolutely. I know firsthand of that. Have you ever managed to find time? Because obviously we spoke about Andrew Smith and how he goes out and does a lot of research out in natural environments. Have you managed to accrue any time for yourself to go and do that whilst you've been?
Always. I think it's very, very important to do that. I mean, if you look over my Instagram, I'm always posting a lot more regular on there. Mm-hmm. And obviously, it's not so spider-centric on my Instagram. But yeah, I mean, I'm always, when I was in Cyprus last year, I was in Cyprus for 8 days. We went out, we found loads of cockroaches. I found about 8 or 9 Latrodectus geometricus egg sacs. I went out and found some paper wasps, and you need, I think as a person sometimes, as we're fully discovering now, you need that time away, that breathing space to be able to sort of bring you back down to earth.
I've said many times, there's absolutely nothing I love more, especially with the wee man, is just get our gear on, maybe take a couple of wee pots or whatever, and go out and see what we can find, take photographs, get things into little pots, have a look at them, set them back free again. But to teach him, and if nothing else, it just gives me
you don't need to go away for that. You don't. I mean, we've got I think it's 633 species of spider in this country, and and there is some great Facebook pages, like the UK Spider Identification page on Facebook. And you've got people like Tone Killick and Gemma Gates. These if you're unsure of an ID, these guys, you can take a photo in the field, and then you can find out by the time you've got home. So
especially with the quality of cameras you get on your phones nowadays.
Yeah.
Modern technology is a great resource for education, and as you say, you just have to go out onto your doorstep, lift a slab, and see what you can find. There's amazing life forms.
Yeah, and turn rocks over. That's that's what I was doing that yesterday. I went out for an hour. Obviously, my allocated hours exercise time yesterday, and we've got a place near here which is an old army land. I've seen sort of snakes up there. They've got a couple of vipers and what have you. But obviously, you need to be very, very careful. Don't go touching snakes if you don't know what it is. But yeah, I mean, rocks like old rotten tree stumps. Try and turn them over and see what's under it. Normally, it'd be like Porcellanidae, which are like what we call cheesy bobs down here. But they've got loads of different names all over the place. So. Like woodlice, basically.
Woodlice, yeah. Isopods. What's been the most unique or interesting or unusual thing then you found whilst out travelling?
Well,
animal-wise, before you say like
I think recently again like we were in Cyprus and I found like a turtle skull, and just in between like the rock pools and what have you, and a couple of bones. So I don't know, obviously, whether it had been attacked or something like that. But yeah, so again, took a couple of photos, things like that. But having said that, like crab spiders on the way whilst I was waiting for the airport, again in Cyprus, you know, I found a tiny little Thomisidae, tiny little crab spider. I think it was Thomisus onustus. And again, it was literally barely fit on my fingertip. But yeah, again, I'll take a couple of photos of that. It's, you know, never be surprised by what you find. But you know, again, sort of, yeah, just I find it's probably one of the most wonderful things to do on your own. It's probably one of the most wonderful things to do with your kids as well, you know, in terms of discovering what's out there.
Yeah, I have to agree. We're going to play a wee game of Would You Rather.
Okay.
Would you rather be able to speak all known languages on Earth or be able to communicate with animals?
I like languages. I do like languages. I'm thinking about learning Cantonese at the moment, but no, it's got to be the animals, really. But again, there is the other question. It's like, would you know, what do animals talk about? Yeah, I'm sure their life compared to us.
Cats are going, I lick my balls to the.
Yeah.
Would you be able to? Would you rather be able to read minds or predict the future?
Oh, I don't want to predict the future. I don't really want to read minds either. But as a psychologist, it would probably help my work. But yeah, I guess read minds. For some reason I got lots of sinister reasons jumping in there. So yeah, probably that.
Would you rather be able to go 100 years into the past or 100 years into the future?
I'm not a history person. I mean, again, it's not a case of can you, would you. It's more a case of would you want to. And yeah,
No.
and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd probably want to go into the past. I think because the way things are going at the moment is.
You don't know what you're going into.
No,
would you rather have 7 fingers or 7 toes?
God. I think, what advantage would I have over having 7 fingers? What do you mean in total? Or just on one hand?
No, on each hand.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, how would that work? I don't know, on 7 hands. What could I do with 7 hands? 7 fingers. Yeah, I don't know. I mean... I suppose in society I'd probably have 7 toes because I could hide them with shoes. You can't really hide hands, can you?
Yeah, fair enough. Would you rather be able to run super fast or have the ability to fly?
Yeah, I think everyone really wants to learn to fly, don't they?
Yeah,
if you could do
cool.
that. As long as you didn't, you know, provided you didn't like sleepwalk and then, you know, you wake up one night and you're like, how did I get here? I remember going to bed like in the States.
That'd be handy for your exploration and your research studies.
It would.
Popping off to Africa.
Absolutely. No contrails.
Yeah. Eco-friendly.
Absolutely.
Would you rather have a dog with a cat's personality or a cat with a dog's personality?
Oh, God. Me and cats don't really get on. So hang on, would I have a cat with a dog's personality? Yeah, what? Yeah, I'd have a cat with a dog's personality because I've got nothing against the way a cat looks. I just hate the way that a cat works for your affections. So you go up to a cat and you'll stroke a cat, and the cat will look at you, and then it'll walk away, but then it'll stop and look back at you and just say, you didn't stroke, did you?
I've got a few cats, and I could happily stick my foot up most of their derrieres. They're little rascals. But I do love them. I've got dogs as well. Absolutely love them. All unique characteristics. But yeah, cats are very sly. Cats are very much more about, like, dogs are like, hey, let's be friends, whereas cats are like, you will earn my friendship.
Well, you don't own a cat anyway. A cat owns you. It's, you know, it's just the way it is.
And then throws it back in your face at the first given opportunity.
Absolutely.
Would you rather be super rich and never be able to delete your browser history, or would you quite happily clear your browser history and be a bum?
If you look at my browser history, all you'll find in there is probably spider stuff, pretty much. I've got nothing, nothing to hide on my browser history. But so if I was to have what's the first part?
You could be super rich but never clear your browser history, or you could be poor and have the ability to clear your browser history.
Oh God, I'd be super rich.
Yep, there you go. Now, according to Urban Dictionary, I couldn't find a Frankus, but I was able to look up a dirty Frank. You know?
Yeah, you're nearly.
It has two meanings, and what we want to know is which best represents you. A dirty Frank is an overweight person who can rub their hands under folds of fat and then slap you in the face with it, or whereby a man inserts a cheese log up his bottom end and uses it to pleasure his partner.
Okay, yeah, no, I think the first guy sounds a little bit more humorous, but I haven't got loads of rolls of fat, so yeah, I think that's the lesser of two evils, really.
That is pretty much it, Frankus. We've come to an end of our journey through getting to know you, and hopefully it's not been too bad.
I hope I didn't disappoint.
Not at all, not at all. It's been incredibly informative. I've certainly enjoyed it, and hopefully anybody watching this will certainly enjoy it. I think we've kind of covered a myriad of small to large and all things in between, a plethora of setting the world to right and kicking the media in the testicles. But yeah, all I can say is a huge thank you. I've really wanted to get in touch with you for quite some time and get this filmed. I've never hidden the fact that I think your work is absolutely incredible, and I'm not being sort of sycophantic or anything, but I've always really enjoyed what you've done, and really look forward to hopefully new videos coming out.
Yeah, well, like I said to you on that, I mean, currently, look, I mean, I'm sort of like building like a little sort of studio together at the moment. So, and the thing is, it's not just going to be spiders. Like I said to you, it's more. It's going to be a general thing. Obviously, my channel now, I've got my kids involved. My 16-year-old, turns out he's actually a really good editor, and he's really into anime as well. So you might see a few videos with like Naruto sort of appearing in the corner or something like that. So, but
Shippuden or whatever his name is.
I mean, obviously, your channel goes out to a lot of people. I respect your channel. I like the fact that you do these interviews.
Yeah.
And I think it does sort of help break down walls and situations like we've got at the moment. Everyone's stuck at home, captive audience. But we will get through this, and
of course we will. And the reason I like doing these videos is a lot of people perhaps see the channel but don't necessarily think about the person behind it, or don't realize how much more there is going on. I think there's a certain aspect of YouTube whereby it's about the personality of the person, and there's other YouTube whereby it's about the passion of the animal, or perhaps a combination of two, or everybody's got their own unique take on it. So for me, I love doing this because it allows me as well as other people to sort of learn stuff that perhaps wouldn't come out without the opportunity to sit down and have these chats. And there's probably somebody that could do it far better than me and not ask about Urban Dictionary. But
I tend to, I tend to not go with the flow. I'm not in partnership with anyone. I don't have to get a certain amount of videos out per each time. I would much rather go for quality, rightly or wrongly, over quantity, and just make a video for the sake of making a video. But I just got to say to everyone that is still on my channel, I've got to say thank you for sticking around, because I think it's important. I tend to not show my face that much.
Yeah.
You'll normally see my hands, but every comment that comes through to me, I do read, and the nice ones are the ones where people are sort of saying, I'd always had a phobia about spiders, and seeing someone talk about them, being quietly calm about them, has helped me get over that. That, I guess, that's the biggest thing that I wanted to.
That's the goal.
If one person goes away from my channel slightly better prepared and slightly more understanding of these fantastic creatures, 100%. Then I think I've done my job.
100%.
All right, mate.
Couldn't agree with you more. That's the goal, isn't it? Just try and educate and share it with others.
And again, if I know everyone's into e-begging at the moment, and I don't want to do the whole e-begging thing, but obviously everything is kind of the YouTubers, people like yourself, people like Dan, even people do this. They don't get paid for it generally. When you've got the amount of subs that you've got, the amount of subs that I've got, unless you have a viral video or something like that, it's all about supporting each other. And the thing is, obviously, the only way for quality to get better is to put more money into the channel. So I think with regards to, and I've got to say, the whole e-begging thing, Patreon, Dan Oakley actually broke it down quite well to me, because I was very sort of and ahhing about I don't think I should do it. I think if people come along and watch my content, then that's enough. But I think if you've got a Patreon or like a Just Giving page or something like that, I think it just goes to show, basically, it's like going into a restaurant and having a wonderful meal, a wonderful service. And if you enjoy that and you want to enhance that and improve that, then you give a tip.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say the same as everyone else has been doing with regards to e-begging, and I'm going to leave it to the end of the video. But I do have a Patreon, and it's patreon.com/Frankus Lee. I obviously have my Instagram, and I've also got a Facebook page called Frankus Lee Bug Appreciation. If you're not there, you should be there. And it's just a place basically where if you don't know, you've got a photo of something and you don't know what it is, then you can go there and someone will be able to help you identify it. And at the same time, be nice to these creatures. Try not to show fear in front of your children, because that's the first thing that your kids will pick up. Other than that, stay safe, wash your hands, stay indoors. Well, you can't, but stay indoors. Everyone else, stay indoors. Make sure everyone's safe and look after each other.
Big time. And on that note, obviously, I think we both like to say a huge thank you to the shop workers, the bin men, the NHS, the carers, all these people that are out there doing what they do to keep the world going. But we shall leave it at that. And thank you ever so much, Frankus. It's really been an absolute honour. Thank you ever so much, my man.
Cheers.
And obviously, subscribe to Frankus Lee. You will not regret it. I can 100% promise you that much.
See you later.
Awesome. Thank you ever so much.
Cheers, buddy. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that ends my interview with Frankus, but there was a few other additional questions that were put to him. So here are those questions and the answers.
Okay, guys. So I've been asked a few extra questions by the Invertabarian. Which he's asked me to send a separate reply. So here goes the video reply. Here we are doing what I said we should be doing during these periods, going out and exploring. Obviously close to home, stay off the roads. This is very close to me. First question.
Hey Frankus, Dave Scott here from Dave Scott 432. I have a question for you. Who's your favorite arachnid supplier and why?
Who is my favourite invert supplier and why? Now, obviously, over the years, I've used loads of people, but I've got to give a shout out to someone that doesn't actually get that much recognition for his knowledge, and that's Tony Webb at Venomous Visions, or you might know him as the Carnage Cockroach. Now, obviously, every show we go to, he's there, and if you don't know, he supplies all kinds of millipedes and centipedes, and he's a wealth of knowledge. He does quite a bit of work, goes out and looks in the field, and he's a great guy to know, and I would thoroughly recommend him. A few of the guys that I've got my previous decent spiders from, there's a guy called Paul Flaherty at Exopets. Now I think he disbanded it for a little while, but he's talking about once obviously this situation's all over, actually opening up again. So look out for him. I think he's on YouTube. He's a tattooist as well, which is always good. So I think inevitably I will end up getting him to do my tattoo, because he knows his stuff, taxonomically speaking. So Tony Webb at Venomous Visions is certainly my preferred supplier to go to, and he's a good guy. So yeah, thoroughly recommend him. Okay, I'll go on to the next question in 2 moments.
Hello everybody, Mark Trenchers here. How's everybody doing today? So my question for Frankus Lee is, if you could only own one DWA invert, what would it be and why?
Okay, going to go over to the lapel for the next question, because it's a bit windy up here. So the next question was, if you could only keep one DWA invert, what would it be and why? Well, I think I probably alluded to it a little bit earlier on in the video with Adam, but Fanuccia, because she's just the daddy, really. She is the murderess. And if you're into cars and you like cars, ultimately you maybe want a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something. If you're into spiders, I think they're kind of, wow, it's a bit windy. If you're into spiders, they're the ones to have. So yeah, Fanuccia Ferra, Brazilian wandering spider, of course. So if that answers that question. Right, I'm going to try and find somewhere not so windy.
I'm going to keep this very, very short. So, Frankus Lee is a very good friend of mine. In fact, I would regard him as probably one of my best friends in the tarantula hobby. And he's such a good friend of mine that I was down in London last year doing some filming, and I invited Frankus to be my +1 and come with me to YouTube Space London. I always go in there to hang out for a little bit while I'm down there. It's a nice place to kick back, chill and relax and do some filming. So I went into YouTube Space London with Frankus with the idea of doing some videos. Now, I did my video of Frankus, I uploaded it, and it was enjoyed by many of you. And my question to you, Frankus, is what happened to the video that you filmed? I don't believe I've seen it, and I'm just curious as to where it is. So I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. So no, I'm joking. I'm just curious as to what happened to that video, because it's a really good day. I thought people would have liked to have seen it, but I'm guessing it might have been to do with the noise, but I don't know. And also, thank you for the Fanuccia Ferra malt. I still have it, and it's awesome. So yeah, cheers, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the interview.
Okay, so we found somewhere a little bit less windy. So the last question was, and it came from a particular source. Love you, Dan. A couple of years ago, Dan and I met up at the YouTube space in London's King's Cross, and we had a chat, and we both recorded footage, and his came out and mine didn't. And I have to be honest, and Dan will attest to this, we were recording without remote mics in an area which basically was a canteen, so there was lots of shuffling of chairs, people kind of coming out behind, and you couldn't really gain a lot of what was being said, certainly from my side. And that's probably why I didn't use the footage. I guess what I should do is actually just go through it. I've still got the recordings, and just clean the audio up and see if we can actually get anything out of it. But yeah, Dan, sorry about that, mate. You know, these things take time. So anyway, that's the answer to my third question. Again, thanks guys. It's been lovely talking to you all. Be safe. It's trying times out there, so make sure you look after yourself, make sure you wash your hands, and yeah, come say hello sometime. See you soon. Take care.
And once more, I have to say a huge thank you for Frankus for taking the time and answering these questions. For me, that has been a real inspirational and informative interview with. I've really enjoyed it, and as I said at the very beginning of all this, I have so much respect for Frankus's work and what he does, and he's an all-round top nice bloke. So thank you ever so much for watching. Do of course subscribe to Frankus's channel, which I pretty much suspect all of you will be anyway. But in the meantime, be good, be kind, take care of yourselves, and yeah, as Frankus said, stay safe.
Right, just bear with me 1 wee second. I'll obviously edit this wee bit out. 2 seconds on that.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm stuck here. Please don't leave me.
Right, sorry about that.
Kids, my friend.
Yeah, he'd been to the loo. Anyway, right, because this is going to be fun to try and edit out. My kid taking a dump. Anyway,
Let's do a segue. Let's do a segue.
I'm just going to leave it in. I'll just leave it in. You should have done a wee bit of elevator music while I was away.
No, I've done better than that. I've done this.
He's left me.
Oh, it's definitely staying in then. Right, let's try and get back to some